Well, good morning, everyone. Bore da, and welcome to this second assembly with us at e-sgol and our partners, Empathy Lab, because it's Empathy Day festival time of the year. Empathy Day itself taking place tomorrow on Thursday, the 12th of June. And if you joined us last week, we kicked things off with a starter assembly, I suppose you could say, with our special guest, Manon Steffan Ross. Bore da, Manon, sut wyt ti bore yma? How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Not bad at all. Thank you. Very glad that you were able to join us once again for this session. And I hope you're looking forward to the quiz at the end of the session, Manon.
I've been practicing.
Well, yeah, we've already held the quiz in the Welsh medium session. So you've got a bit of a head start. So I'll be very disappointed if you don't do well. But yeah, thank you very much for rejoining us again this week. I'm looking forward to seeing what you've got in store for us. But before we move on to the end of last week's story and the quiz, I thought maybe you could remind us of what empathy means, Manon. I really liked your description from last week.
Well, I think that empathy is a little bit different for everybody, but for me, empathy is that feeling you get when you see someone that's upset or sad or angry, maybe, or even just frustrated, that you put yourself in their shoes and you imagine what they feel like in that moment. You imagine what you would feel like if you were in their place. And for me, that's what empathy means.
And that ties in quite nicely with Empathy Lab's definition on screen here, doesn't it? What is empathy? It's our ability to experience and understand someone else's feelings and points of view. So it does make sense, I think, and goes along nicely with what you've just described, Manon. And speaking of other people's points of view, you set a challenge last week, didn't you, for the audience to imagine who the girl in this picture might be, what her name could be, why did she look unhappy? If those watching were to see her, what would they do? Would they help her, and how? Well, I'm glad to say that we received a few responses, Manon, for the challenge, and we'll have a look at some of them now. And as you can see here, Ysgol Rhyw Bechan took part in last week's assembly, as well as Ysgol Llyn y Forwyn. And you can see here at the bottom that Ysgol Llyn y Forwyn obviously had quite the discussion following the session, and someone here is presenting some ideas, I think, to the rest of the class. So thank you very much to Ysgol Llyn y Forwyn. And then we were sent in some excellent ideas by Ysgol Pont Robert, that the girl's name might be Emily. She's sad, possibly because she's fallen out or doesn't have any friends. They suggested asking, what's wrong? A simple idea, but an effective one, I'm sure. And also suggesting that they might want to ask her to play with them. And I think that would make her a little bit happier. Manon, do you agree?
Absolutely, yes. I think that's a really, really good idea. And yeah, it's quite similar to what I was thinking, actually, which you'll see in a minute.
Yeah, and I think we've got some other ideas along the same lines. One of them coming in from Ysgol Gymraeg i Forhael, who sent, one of the learners sent us this lovely poster or infographic. I'm not sure how you describe it, but it looks very good, and there's a lot of good ideas on the page. And the ideas were as follows: that the girl's name is Olivia, possibly, that she might be lonely. They suggested asking again if Olivia wanted to play with them. And it would be a good idea, they think, to tell an adult that Olivia is sad as well. I think those are really good ideas. Diolch yn fawr iawn, Ysgol Gymraeg i Forhael. And then to Ceredigion and Ysgol Manon, who suggested the girl's name might be Caddy, that she might have fallen out with her friends. They suggested speaking to her would be a good idea. Again, a very good starting place, I'm sure, Ysgol Manon. And to be kind to her by giving her a cwtch and ask her to play with us. A cwtch is better than a cuddle, isn't it? There's a difference, I think, Manon. Do you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. I love these ideas, especially because in the picture, she is alone, isn't she? And I think that all of us have been thinking about she might be feeling a little bit lonely, that she might need other people. So it's great that a lot of the reactions we've had are people, just talking to her and keeping her company, really.
Absolutely. And I think it's time now to see if their ideas, well, I don't know if accurate is the right word, but if they go along with what you've written, and we're going to jump back into your story, Manon, and see what the ending was. So thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sending in those ideas. And I hope that you've all been chatting at school about what empathy means and maybe about this picture that I sent you, because I've been giving her a lot of thought. And of course, this is only a picture, so there's no right or wrong answer. Some of you will look at this picture and think, oh, she's sad or angry or maybe even frustrated. And we're all right in a way, because you can never tell how somebody feels just like by looking at them. I've created my own story about her in my head. I've decided that for me, in my story, her name is Eleri and that she lives with her mum. And she's sad in this picture because her friends have started to leave her out of things. They go out to play without her and they eat their lunch at a different table at school. And sometimes Eleri thinks that they're talking about her behind her back. Sometimes she sees them looking over at her and laughing, and it makes her feel really alone and sad. So, in my story, Eleri decides to be brave. And she tells her teacher, Miss Price, about how she's been feeling and what's been happening. And Miss Price, she thinks about what to do about all of this and how to sort out Eleri's problem, how to help her. And she decides to speak to the whole class. And she uses that word that we've been using, empathy. And she says, when you see someone who looks sad or angry or just not quite right, how about thinking in this way? How do they feel? Imagine how you'd feel in their place. Imagine the exact feelings in that moment. Now, that isn't always easy, but the more we do it, the easier it gets. And then Miss Price asks another question. How can I help? This is a really important question, isn't it? Because it can be really hard to know sometimes. Some people, they refuse help. And some people it can be difficult to help for lots of different reasons. And the truth is, not everyone wants to accept the help that you're giving them. But if we think about how we would feel in that situation, that might make a real difference. So, as you go about your school day today, how about thinking sometimes about the way the people around you are feeling? What would it feel like to live their lives? Because empathy, it's like a muscle, right? You have to exercise it over and over and over again. And then you get really good at feeling empathy and it becomes quite easy. You look at anyone and you can imagine what it is to be them, what it feels like to feel their feelings. And you become really good at helping people and at being a good friend. So that's my challenge for always, really, is to exercise that empathy muscle that you have and to think, ask yourself these questions and think about how other people are feeling.
Yeah, it might be Empathy Festival and Empathy Day tomorrow, but in reality, every day is Empathy Day, isn't it? And it's important, as you say, Manon, to exercise that muscle throughout the year. Felly, diolch yn fawr iawn i ti. Thank you very much for the lovely story once again. And again, these two simple questions, but effective questions. How do they feel? How can I help? Very effective ways of showing empathy, I'm sure. And speaking of questions, very tenuous link here, we're going to move on now to our quiz. So everyone who joins in an e-sgol session knows that we are big fans of Kahoot quiz, and I'm sure you know how to join by now also, but just in case, we've got 2 minutes on the screen here hopefully there'll be plenty of time for you to register by visiting www.kahoot.it and using the game pin there, 177811. Or you can use the QR code at the top of the screen by scanning it with the camera, maybe on an iPad or a similar tablet, and joining the quiz in that way. And I think, Manon, you're going to take part as well. Are you the helpful eagle that I can see on screen here?
I am the helpful eagle, and I love that the picture is so random.
And nothing to do with an eagle by the look of it
Nothing at
either.
all to do with an eagle.
No, that's a moose, if I'm correct. I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll see if the helpful eagle succeeds during today's quiz. And remember, if the 2 minutes does run out and you haven't had a chance to register, the code for the quiz will remain at the bottom of the screen throughout the quiz. Anyway, while we wait for the time to come to an end for registration, have you got anything else on at the moment, Manon?
Well, yes, I've just finished writing a book in Welsh called Y Cae Ras, which means the race course, which is Wrexham's football ground. So it's a novel for children about years 5, 6, 7-ish, about football, but also about what happens when families grow and people start feeling uncomfortable and people start falling out. There's a lot of empathy in the novel. And in fact, I think that whenever you're reading a story, any kind of story, there's lots of empathy in it, because in a way, that's what a book is. You're empathizing with the characters.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that book being released then. You're a big fan of football, obviously. If you're writing about the Cae Ras, the race course, and obviously you've written in the past about fi ac Aaron Ramsey, and I think there's an English adaptation of that one, isn't there?
That's right. Yeah, me and Aaron Ramsey.
There we are. A nice plug for you there, as well as taking part in the quiz. So I think we're ready to go now with a few competitors on screen. I'll be keeping an eye out for the helpful eagle in particular, but I think we'll get started. I wonder what the first question will be. If someone is lonely, what is the best thing to ask? Should you say, "How do you feel?" or ask, "Why are you so quiet today?" Or everyone answering correctly that "how do you feel" is a better question to ask in that occasion, isn't it? We'll move on then. Dr. Yak is at the top of the moment with a helpful eagle in third. That's better this time, Manon. Diane. This girl has just lost her favorite toy. How is she likely to feel? Is she going to be happy or more likely to be sad? Everyone answered correctly that sad is the correct answer there. The helpful eagle I can still see on the scoreboard, but it's Dr. Yak at the top, whoever they are. Question number 3. How can we show empathy at school? Listen to a friend when they're sad, or ignore someone when they cry? Oh, well done. Yes, it's listen to a friend when they're sad. Of those two options, isn't it? For sure. How has that changed things? Oh, it's still the Dr. Yak at the top, and Helpful Eagle is in 4th place at the moment. I am Manon. Question 4 coming up. Which of these is an example of being kind? Telling a lie, helping someone get up when they've fallen, or laughing when someone falls? I think one of those probably stands out, doesn't it? But which one? And maybe the picture is a bit of a clue in this instance as well. That's right, helping someone get up when they've fallen is an example of being kind, isn't it? That's the rational snail at the top of the leaderboard now, but only 7 points in front of Dr. Yak. So we'll move on to question 5. Why is empathy important? It makes you look cool, or it helps us be better friends? Well done. Yeah, it helps us be better friends, doesn't it? I suppose it does make us cool as well in a way, but that was the better answer possibly of the two. Oh, and Dr. Yak has taken their place back at the top of the leaderboard. Helpful Eagle just clinging on there in fifth place, Manon. Only
How are
two
you all so
questions.
quick?
Yeah, they are very quick, aren't they, to be fair? But we'll move on to question 6. What could we say to a friend who's sad? Are you crying again? Don't be so silly. Or how can I help? I think one of those possibly stands out again, doesn't it? Is everyone going to pick the correct answer, though? Yeah, that's the one. How can I help is the correct answer, isn't it? Rather than the other two. Well done. 18 correct answers this time. But no movement on the leaderboard. So there's one question left. Can Dr. Yak keep their place at the top of the leaderboard? And can Manon cling on to the top 5 here? Let's see. The question is, what is empathy? Laughing when someone is sad, telling people what to do, understanding how someone feels, or being better than other people. And there's a bit of a clue, isn't there, with the Empathy Lab definition on screen. But let's see. Well done. Yeah, 18 correct answers, knowing that empathy is understanding how someone feels. There is a bit more to it than that, but for the sake of the limited amount of space we are able to use for an answer in the Cahoots quiz, that's the correct answer. Felly da iawn pawb sydd wedi ateb gywir. Well done. So let's have a look at the podium and the leaderboard. In third place was the blue hamster. In second, the rational snail. At top of the leaderboard is Dr. Yak. And can I see? Oh, yeah, the helpful eagle is there in fifth. Da iawn, Manon, llongyfarchiadau. Well done. So thank you very much, everyone, for taking part in the quiz and also for joining us this morning. Before we end the session, just another quick chance to remind you about the Empathy Challenge taking place on the Empathy Lab website. A whole host of ideas and resources available to you there if you're looking to learn more about empathy or to celebrate Empathy Day tomorrow, of course. Lots of ideas available there for you. But for now, we'll say thank you very much for joining, and also to Manon as our special guest. Diolch yn fawr iawn, Manon, for both assemblies. They've been great. Felly, diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much. Hwyl fawr pawb. Ta-ra.
Ta-ra.